Dr. Ernesto Larre is the Pro and Digital Marketing Director for Royal Canin Iberia from January 2018 to date, responsible for sales and marketing of the professional channel for the Iberia cluster. And he's also responsible for the implementation of CRM and digital marketing. He was Director of Marketing and Professional Sales for Royal Canin Iberia from October 2015 until January 2018. He now heads the management sales team responsible for the results of independent distributors and government accounts and KOLs.
Thank you very much, Tere. Good morning. How are you doing? I am very happy to be here. It is a dream for me to be here at my alma mater, the Mexican Canine Federation. I feel so proud about everything I've heard and seen good friends, former teachers from the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, colleagues from around the world who work for the animal well-being. As a Mexican, I am very proud to see my flag waving and the army, so I couldn't be doing better. Thank you for being here. And the idea for today is to talk about nutrition, the impact nutrition has on the well-being and the health of dogs. If I'm being honest with you, to me this was a quite complicated subject because just like Tere said, I've been in this world of nutrition for a few years, and it was a challenge not to talk about my brand because if it would be easy for me just to sell you my story and tell you how good my brand is. But I want to set that aside a little bit and focus truly on the role nutrition plays when we talk about dogs' well-being and health. So, you allow me, let us begin with the following. This is absolutely key. Seeing nutrition not like something isolated. We have seen these days that if we take perspective, animal welfare and health encompasses a lot more than just one factor. We have a rather complicated global context. Dr. Sebasteri asked yesterday, what can we do at an institutional level to improve all of this, the whole thing? Truth is, we have a very complex ecosystem with several stakeholders intervening, institutions, owners. Somebody asked about the role of the pet owner having wanting to have a dog of a specific breed, the industry and the brands behind nutrition. What role do we play in this whole ecosystem? Veterinarians, by all means, governments, and also everything that has to do with NGOs. I will not delve into detail here because this isn't the core of today's conversation, but we have some NGOs that are exerting huge pressure on not buying, adopting, or putting a bad focus on putting a bad worth on breeders. And on the other hand, we have some really good associations that help us demonstrate that this is not the case, that there can be animal welfare behind all these activities, just like we have members of Forbes here with us today, helping us because they give us this backup to be able to communicate in a correct fashion all of these benefits. Governments. Yesterday, we had the chance to speak to the Secretary of Tourism. It only puts to show the commitment the country has to do something about it. But when we look at Europe, you see that in certain countries there are government laws that start to jeopardize breeding. We have it in Spain, in the Netherlands, France, in the UK, some bills of law that are really making it hard for breeders that have been working for a long time, and this puts them at a bit of a pickle. So we need to look at this not as a challenge really or a problem, but rather an opportunity. Yesterday, the Secretary of Tourism said that he invited the Canine Federation to participate in events. The fact of just being here, reinforcing the importance of events, is great, and giving continuity for the future. Once again, it puts to show the commitment from the government level, and we need to take advantage of this context to truly seize this momentum and create the changes in the countries involved where they are needed. Talking about institutions, of course, we have many institutions around the world, but they act reactively. President 𝐂𝐨𝐬𝐞𝐫 talked about proactiveness yesterday. This is a great message because we need to take a look at the situation, explore the context, and get ahead of ourselves to what can happen. Get ahead of the situation, see how we can move faster in a proactive way instead of just waiting to see what the future holds in store for us. And managing reactions, just like everyone knows, it is a very wide subject with the institutions that are not aligned with our projects. Right, pet owners, this is crucial. Somebody asked about it yesterday, and this is important because somebody who doesn't know, we know we have people from all over the world and a great deal of experience worldwide, but people who just want a puppy do not know as much. So yesterday, somebody asked, how can we educate owners? Because if I didn't know anything about dogs and I want to buy a retriever, a Labrador, I live in Madrid, Spain, and I can see a difference of price ranges coming from 200 euros, and I'm not lying, it is true, 200 euros up to 4,000 euros. As a consumer that doesn't know anything, I ask, what is the difference between a $200 dog and a 4,000 euro dog? So as brands and as industry, we need to reinforce communication and information to pet owners so that they know that when they approach a breeder with all the experience and education, this cost is paying for everything we've seen, all the genetics involved, well-being, the first expose experience, everything. We need to get pet owners involved because if we think we're only going to work with judges and expositions, yes, but what happens when a pet owner comes into play? We need to keep this in mind. Now, the industry, I'm coming off of my own trench here, but today most companies, not just food companies, but most of them, play a major role not just in selling their product. It's not just like I sell nutrition, come buy my product, but we play a major role in the environment as well, and the well-being and the health. And without naming any brands, I think companies besides selling products need to get involved, need to get in the picture to truly start supporting all these changes through not just their products but also nutritional solutions, genetic tests, just like our partner Elodie shared yesterday, that can make a huge difference. You can help breeders and institutions around the world manage this change, and this context worldwide of well-being and health for dogs will be affected positively by thanks to the efforts from these feed companies. Right, so what's health? It is hard to talk about health and well-being without even knowing what health is. Just to give you a quick description of a concept of health, and that is very interesting. Health is not just being all right, but the absence of a disease, the absence of a problem. This is worldwide and it applies to human beings, of course, but if we talk about dog health specifically, it is a very important branch of medicine studied in veterinary medicine. But in this context, we start to talk about very interesting stuff, genetic disorders. We have been talking about genetic disorders these days, and also we're started to talk about the relation between nutrition and this subject. Health is beyond just feeling all right or not having any diseases or something, but talking about dog health, there are certain factors such as genetics and nutrition that have a direct impact on this context. So what is well-being? Well-being, just like the president said yesterday, we have three key factors to measure it, to take into consideration in order to talk about welfare. Number one, for the animal to have a normal biological function. Second, for the animal to have a balanced emotional state. And thirdly, for it to have the ability to express its behavior in a normal fashion. When we have these three elements, we can then talk about welfare or well-being. This doesn't only apply to dogs, but also other type of species. But I think it is a good it is a good approach on what welfare could be because it is completely related to what President Thomas Jackal talked about yesterday. When we talk about well-being or welfare, this isn't a synonym of health. A dog could be healthy, but maybe they are not in welfare. So we need to be able to tell apart. One thing is not the synonym of the other one, a synonym of the other one. So we need to tick these three boxes in order to talk about welfare. This should be the philosopher's stone or the polar star of all breeders, institutions, or just anyone working with dogs around the world. And well, basically, these are the freedom dogs have to feel thirst and hunger. Dogs need to be fed, they need to drink water every day, and they need to be free from any discomfort or any situation that puts them at an uneasy situation. They need to be free from pain or some sort of sickness, and if so, to have access to measures and the freedom to express their normal behaviors. We need to add to the equation the breed that we are thinking about, the function they have if they have the capacity to express themselves normally, and also that they don't feel fear or stressed all the time. As a simple parameter, just as a guide, if we wanted to measure, because it is true, yes, that the welfare, the well-being needs to be measured one way or the other. According to certain studies, yes, it can be measured, but just as reference, take the 5 liberties of animal welfare to see in your activities and in your facilities you're aligned to these 5 liberties of animal welfare and see for yourself if you're doing it or not. Something interesting and getting more focused on nutrition. In 2010, the Veterinary Animal Association published in the guidelines that at a veterinary consult, remember, with the veterinarian, there are different factors taken into account, such as temperature, heart rate, breathing, and if there is any pain. And it's been included already in this committee. A nutritional assessment. A nutritional assessment that, as we saw at the beginning, nutrition has a very tight relation with health. They are very closely related, so it is a great idea for a veterinarian to be put in context from the consult to see whether or not there is this relation or not. There is this relation. This is a real case. I will tell you about it because this marked me. This is an example on how nutrition has an impact on the welfare and health of dogs. In Spain, there is a huge problem with what we call the puppy trade liver. Puppy trade liver. In the eastern countries, Slovenia, all of those, there is a massive production of puppies that are sent all over Europe. And in Spain, just so you can think about this, the number one trade in it is guns, second weapon, and third puppies. Just think about it. This chain of distribution is incredible because a dog coming from there can be sold up to 200, 300 euros. People who don't know buy them and they are like, oh yes, it's cute, the phenotype is nice, but obviously they have genetic problems, health problems. The death rate has gone up by 60% in most cases, and the conditions under which this is done are far from adequate. So this is a very, very sad subject. and I had the chance to carry out a project in Europe. Because if we said that if we have a death rate of 60% in these places specifically, why not help from a European level with the helping the dogs with specific diets? I'm not going to make you a commercial, but it starts with S and ends with starter. It helped reduce the death rate of puppies because nutrients and some ingredients we used in our diets made them more resistant. The immune health of puppies. This doesn't mean it's fine because it is an activity we don't support, but this is a tremendous indicator on how nutrition at such key moments, especially such complicated moments, can make a huge difference by decreasing death rates in extreme cases. I'm talking about extreme cases and practices we want to eradicate, but thank God we have Julie here with us to help us work in this matter. In a nutshell, I like this slide because it puts very graphically what we can understand as welfare and health mixed up. It all starts with physical health. When we talk about physical health, we see that the dog health is the full state of physical, mental, and social health in an environment with welfare. Talking about the physical component, they need to have access to a tailor-made nutrition. When I talk to my peers, they say, oh, you know what, the brand you represent is nothing but marketing because you have products for different breeds, and that's just marketing. But that isn't true. All the science behind the feed meals are focused on preserving health because they have nutritions that favor certain things. The nutritional requirements of a puppy are not the same as the ones of an adult dog, and there are differences between a Labrador and a Chihuahua. There is a lot. It is not just marketing. There is a lot of science behind it, but it is important to give them access to this type of diets. Access to water, well, that goes without saying. The weight is important too. We will talk about this in a minute. They need to be physically stimulated. We saw Dr. Law's video with these little Pekingese to have prevention, and in the case of illness to have access to treatment to eradicate these problems. And in the mental component, for the dog to feel free from stress and to feel safe and mentally stimulated, with the capacity to say, you know what, yes, I'm working now, but then after my shift, I will get to be a dog again, to be able to express their normal behavior and to have a sensation of trusting people, for them to be fine and for them to trust people around them and their fellow dogs. Socially, it has a tremendous impact as well because today, everything is connected, and this is just an example. Just look at people coming from all corners of the world. Everything is connected. So they need to have this love and affection and to play a major role in society. That they have a reward when they do something, that they feel rewarded for the activities that they perform. And finally, the environmental component, where they live, if they are comfortable where they are, because sometimes, well, the environment is paramount for the welfare. How can we improve the environment they live in if they are trained to perform an activity, if they perform any sort of outdoors activity, and if they live in the ecosystem that is right for an adequate health? I know this is a bit dense, but it reflects all the actions we can take every day to have a direct impact on the welfare of dogs and their health. Let's talk about nutrition a bit further, a bit more in detail. And let me tell you here, the subject is nutrition as the base for welfare and health. I will I will go back to 460 before Christ with Hippocrates, who said, "Let your food be your main medicine." When we get sick, we take a treatment, but he said we can prevent it even before getting sick. We can have an adequate nutrition to prevent those diseases. This applies for dogs as well. Why wait for a dog to get obese or to have another problem to start treating it when we can start treating them the moment they are born? We can start with nutrition by giving them all the requirements and the support so they develop health and welfare from a fundamental pillar as important as nutrition. I wouldn't really like for to start talking about amino acids, proteins right now to tell you how fatty acids work, but this image helps me explain to you. And when we talk about some nutrition and food, there are many nutrients involved, and each of them play a specific role in health and well-being. Because a dog that is itching all the time is not fine. So if through nutrition we can prevent it, we are directly favoring the health and welfare of such dog. Vitamins, we have something interesting there. Minerals, fatty acids, fibers. Fibers are so important for gut health. A dog that is under chronic stress for shows will have, well, it will show, even though they might win shows, but internally they are stressed out. They don't have welfare. So how can we help all of this for nutrition? There are different types of nutrients that can help us. Proteins, the fur. Obviously, those specialized in this world know that fur is so important beyond just body composition. So how can I make sure I'm giving them everything they need through nutrition so that they are in the best welfare and health conditions? I love this slide because it is so basic yet so clear. The nutritional focus should be on the nutrient and not the ingredient. I have friends who come and boast, "Oh, I bought my dog this buffalo feed with northern potato." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's great." And then somebody says, "And mine is a rabbit with carrots and whatnot." They're thinking about the ingredient beyond and not just the nutrient. The focus should be on the nutrient because ingredients are nothing but a cluster of nutrients. So what is absorbed and taken advantage of in the intestine is the nutrient. For example, wheat gluten. Wheat gluten, and automatically people say, "Oh yeah, but you know what? Dogs come from wolves and they eat meat." But what if I said that wheat gluten has an amino acid that is highly digestible? What does it mean that it is digestible? That it is very well taken advantage of by the intestine, and it has an absorption of over 95%. So what does this mean? I can give my dog lutein, and 95% of this amino acid will be absorbed and utilized to have healthy fur, to have an adequate function and a strong immune system. But they say, "No, don't give them wheat because they eat meat." Don't focus on the nutrient, but I'm giving them lutein. It's a highly digestible amino acid. That is to say, it is very easy to absorb, and not just say, "Oh, I'm giving them rabbits from northern countries," and digestibility might not be as good because you're thinking about nutrient and not the ingredient instead of the nutrient. So keep this approach of looking for nutrients instead of ingredients. Of course, these nutrients have very important functions for cell regeneration, transportation, immune transport, the central nervous system that is activated through proteins, and immunity. So important in dogs. Remember, the immune system is highly impacted by all the amino acids, and I will not get into detail because this isn't a nutrition talk as such, but always have this focus because nutrients will reinforce the dog with health and welfare. We always have to make this correlation. Vitamins, I know this could sound a bit difficult, but see how interesting this is. I brought this to share it with you. The deficiency of certain vitamins could create behavioral changes in dogs. For example, some deficiencies such as vitamin A, deficiency in vitamin A could cause depression of the central nervous system. You buy a product, you don't have the level of vitamin, and it is a nutritional subject. The dog is not having a good time. He's not in good health. The problem this dog has is deficiency. Deficiency in D vitamin, for example, that can cause lethargy in the dog, and this is developed through nutrition as well. And like these deficiencies, like deficiencies in magnesium or sodium, that could make dogs more irritable. They are irritable because they are not at ease. There is some discomfort. We can turn that around for nutrition. So let's just not think about they have the right facilities and all that, but think that nutrition plays a fundamental role. Even the title of the presentation is the very base of the welfare of dogs and their health. Of course, nobody remembers the amount of sodium and potassium and minerals and vitamins, but there are certain guidelines that can help you. This nutritional guide coming from the European Nutritional Council. Here are all the recommendations for calcium and phosphorus, and you can compare it to your usual diets to see if the dog is complying with the requirements with that type of vitamin or mineral, and it is very, very easy to do. Just see the importance of all nutrients and micro and micronutrients, and know that you have access to this information very easily. What happens when we have some sort of deficiency or an overdose? I don't know how to say it. You will find problems that are phenotypically reflected, such as rickets or deficiencies of people, deficiencies that could create some disorders, obesity. That is such a dangerous pandemic. Fatty acid deficiency, but this is a more visible subject. You can look at the dog and say this dog doesn't have this or that, but with the rest, you need to think if the dog is all right. Maybe they are not wrong, but they could have some sort of deficiency, and through nutrition we can do something to change it. Somebody said yesterday in one of the presentations, anthropomorphism. This is just to remind you that dogs are a completely different species to human being. You might think you're a vegetarian, you're vegan, and your dog needs to be too. Give us a break. It couldn't be. It doesn't work like that. Because if a dog has a vegan owner and he's turning to a vegan himself, the dog will not have welfare. They won't be a healthy dog. So we always need to bear in mind the anatomical differences as well as the structural and functional ones between humans and dogs. Cats as well, but we're talking about dogs. We need to bear this in mind because there are so many cases of people saying, I am a vegetarian or I am with the Paleolithic diet and the dog needs to follow suit. That is a no-no. We need to respect them. We need to respect their characteristics because this has a direct impact on their welfare and health. Coincidentally, this picture was taken a few years ago, 8 or 10 years ago. I think it was the opening of this lovely place. And I put it up here a few days ago. This is in the north of Italy. This is in the US, and this is with Dr. Lowe, with Pekingese. What I wanted to show here is that each breed of dogs has their own requirements. We couldn't expect this little dog to have the same nutritional requirements as these ones that need to run in the snow for kilometers. Or in the army dogs, Frida was mentioned yesterday. There will be a statue dedicated to her. She deserves it. But they have special requirements, and these dogs are under stress because they are working in real life situations. Remember, Frida? She was rescuing people buried in the ground. This dog was having a special time, so they need their special time, their special moment, nutrition, the right nutrition for Frida and the rest of the dogs who work like her to have welfare and to be capable of performing the duties. An exhibition dog, you know this better than anyone. The dog sees more animals, is not in any longer in his natural environment, gets on a plane into Japan or China. They can be traveling and stressed out, and the dog needs to be sure that everything is all right. And nutritionally speaking, there is a fundamental factor to underpin this welfare and health. What I meant to say with all of these is that not all dogs are the same. We need to respect their differences and characteristics, and based on that, to choose the best nutrition that will positively impact their health and well being. It is a matter of balance, of course, and we will start talking about one of the main problems of health and well being, which is dog obesity. And this is as simple as this: how much do they eat and how much energy do they burn? I will not delve into that because you are the experts, but at the level of judges and breeders, the people here are the most important people of the dog world, the world of dogs in the world. Because if a stereotype of a breed is a bit chunkier because it is nicer, then breeders and owners will opt for that. But we need to take into consideration that this dog that doesn't have the most adequate body composition could actually have well-being problems. Some indicators on how we can very easily learn to choose the best nutrition for our dogs, and we see the calorie contribution of a protein, carbohydrates, or fats. It doesn't mean one is better or worse than the other one. Balance is the key, and the activity as well, because if I want a dog running a short race at a high speed, this dog will need different nutrients than the husky that I want him to run over 2 days. This needs to be taken into consideration, and based on these characteristics, the dog will need to have the right amount of nutrients to positively impact their welfare. To summarize these nutritional subjects, what questions do we need to ask ourselves to make sure we're helping dogs from nutrition? Well, the body composition of the dog, what should it be? If the dog's been sterilized or not, because this has a very strong endocrinological factor that could lead to major disorders. What stage of life is it? A puppy, an adult, any medical conditions? What breed, what activity does the breed perform, and what do you want it for? This information is important to consider when choosing the best nutrition at the best time. Now, getting to obesity, we will see very specific examples on how obesity is a pathology. It has an impact on the health and well being of dogs, and through nutrition, we can avoid it, prevent, and even cure it. When talking about obesity, we have many factors that could show up, such as difficulty to breathe, cardiac, heart problems, compromised immune response, not so healthy looking skin, diabetes. In general, it all comes down to cutting down life expectancy or longevity. And there are very easy tools to measure this, because we won't be testing every single day, but just with this alone, body composition indicator, it would allow us to see if the dog and there are documents for large, small, large, mini dogs to see if the body composition the dog has is ideal, and hence take nutritional measures or from activities to get to this body composition. This is also public information at the webpage of the brand I represent. I will not say its name, but it is very, very easy to do in your own facilities, in your day-to-day life, and this will allow you to see if the dog is at the most adequate body state, because you think the dog is having a swell time. It is not. Imagine how hot it is. The dog is not having a good time, so we need to favor animal welfare from nutrition. This dog is not having a good time either, so we need to strike the balance. Most likely, if it has all the rest we have talked about, is having a good time, it has animal welfare, and it has a much more adequate health status. I will guide you through this study because there are many numbers telling us life expectancy. It is an interesting study to see the association between the life expectancy of dogs with normal body composition and overweight dogs. Here we have some breeds and the life expectancy dogs with normal body composition have, and the life expectancy dogs with obesity have. You can see with a Chihuahua, the life expectancy is 16 years and it's cut down to almost 14, which indicates that it's not just that the dog looks chunkier, but in terms of health and welfare, the dog is not having a good time, and we are directly compromising it. And we are directly compromising life expectancy. We have the study for males, females, and for certain breeds in particular. Another important example on nutrition, health, is related to obesity. The study that says that overweight dogs are more prone to develop tumors in mammary glands. Through nutrition, I am favoring well-being to give them this right nutrition. Yet another example on how nutrition plays a major role in well-being and health. This study was made with Labradors, and the result was there was a group of Labradors with the right body composition and another group with overweight dogs. And in summary, the Labradors with the right body composition lived up to 2 years longer than those with overweight. Once again, another real concrete example on how through nutrition we can achieve a more adequate health and a greater welfare. This has a direct impact even on the life expectancy of dogs. This is also a real case. Look at this little dog with overweight. It's the same. And after she was given the right nutritional approach, she's not having a good time. You can see that. Just see what we said. They need to perform their normal activities in a normal way. The dog cannot even stand on its own feet. It cannot even poo or pee. It doesn't have the parameters of well-being. We detect the problem, we go to the vet. A study is conducted, we look at the requirements, and a treatment plan is chosen, a diet is selected, and people here are concerned about the effects it can have on health and well-being of this bitch because she's not having a good time. And the pet owner starts to look at certain signals that make him realize the importance, and after some time the bitch goes back to a normal state. Believe me, she is a lot better here than over here. Another real example, this is a real case of this little Spanish bitch who had a very forlorn life. She was aching all day long, was taking a lot of analgesics, and she was 6 years old. She wasn't even that mature. A study is conducted. She's diagnosed with obesity, and through a nutritional program in which we chose the right diet, giving her the additional nutrients, she goes back to the adequate body composition. She gets off the analgesics. It is important because the downside of the analgesics is tremendous, and she's free of pain. Just with the nutritional approach, just with the approach of welfare, this little bitch who was having a horrible time, after 5 months of the right nutritional approach, goes back to the state of health and welfare. And she's the owner, Sasha. And the case of Duke, who is, this is a 12-year-old dog showing up to a consult. The owner says, he's suffering, put him to sleep. He said, I love him so much, he's 12 years old, but he's so old and he's suffering, put him to sleep. Please, sacrifice him. And then the vet is like, you know what, the dog is fine, it's just a beast, so let's give him a treatment. 7 months after the right nutritional approach, focusing on the characteristics of the dog and the breed, Duke lived 2 more years with no pain and good quality of life related to nutrition. Just to wrap up, health is the best reward. Health is precious and health is very powerful. Thank you so much. Right, so as I was saying, congratulations, doctor, for your presentation. It was very clear, very precise. And I think I got the message you meant to communicate. The health and well-being of our dogs and why not our cats as well. But my question is, what can we do about animal welfare related to nutrition when it is a dog that will travel for a long time in a transatlantic journey? Companies tell us we're not supposed to feed them because they don't want the dogs to poo. They don't even allow water because the water might spill. What would be your recommendation for the dog to travel safely? Should we improve the quality of the protein, certain elements, to overfeed before leaving and then the same upon arrival? Or what can we do? Because many of our dogs, I've seen them, they arrive in terrible conditions. Thank you. Thank you for your question. I think that the key for success here is anticipation. The prevention at the time, I would ask myself, why does the dog have to travel? It's because the dog will not have a good time with this stress. But if we prepare them in the right way beforehand with the right nutrients, then the dog can just overcome this stress with no problem, just respecting it. And it is important for this transport not just to have the right nutrition, but also all the good handling and the support of airlines. I would recommend it, and quite honestly, you can approach professionals. I know people who do this professionally, and if you have the chance to do so, I would leave it to the experts, because yes, indeed, if the dog has a weak immune system and a poor body composition, even if we feed them one day before or not, the dog could develop some problems. So my answer is a personal one. I would take them to a professional company that is into this business. They have certificates related to animal welfare that could also provide some traceability and give visibility on how this is done. This is the approach that I would take. ¿Alguien tiene más preguntas?
Hello, Jane Evans, a breeder from Australia. I want to know if the book that you produce on dog breeding is able to be circulated more widely amongst breeders and viewers. It's only available through membership to the Royal Canin Club, and it's a brilliant book, and I think education is what we're all about, and it would be wonderful if it could be circulated more widely through purchasing it, through shops, through kennel clubs, or further than that even. Is that possible? Thank you.
Yeah, I would switch to English. Yeah, so our approach from Royal Canin is to really give not only a product, but a service to the breeders around the world. So the approach, and yesterday my mate Elodie showed, it's not only giving the right food, because we know that we are experts in this, but to really give you something that you already mentioned, which is the trainings, the science behind. So the approach we will have for the next years in Royal Canin is giving not only a product, but a service beyond. And when we speak about services, we speak about genetics, we speak about knowledge, we speak about the relationship that you will have with the pet owners as well. Today we spoke about the importance of the communication between the breeders and the pet owners. People around the world say like, don't buy, adopt, but they don't know all the passion, all the expertise you have behind. So for us, it's super important to give you not only a product, but a service as well, and to give you the credibility and the expertise you have to show to the pet owners around the world.
It has been trending for some years now. People who recommend barf with several ingredients. They make their own barfs and in their centers. But I think the best balance is in commercial balance feed. I understand your point of view about the difference between barf and super premium foods and premium. Thank you very much, Humberto. Of course. Remember what I said. For me, the most important thing is not the ingredient, but the nutrient. I would never speak ill of a competitor or a trend that is not the one I represent. But as a veterinarian, the barf diet has a problem. The risk is that it can carry a lot of pathogens that could create an infection at the breeding center. That is the main issue I see. And number two, if someone could guarantee that a barf diet is 100% calculated and rationed to give them the nutrients, the vitamins they need, it is complicated already to do it at a super premium diet. Now imagine if you mixed some cows, some potatoes, some rice. How can you ensure that the nutritional balance of the diet is actually the right one? So first of all, there could be some pathogenical aspects in the food, and secondly, the nutritional balance of these feed. And number three, if somebody guarantees that it is free from pathogens, okay, but then they guarantee that the nutritional balance is the right one. And number three, the time that you as breeders, professional breeders, need to take in order to prepare the feed and feed the dog. That time is very valuable for you, because in order to measure it and give it specific food and body composition, for me there are three negative aspects that I see, not as a representative of a brand, but as a veterinarian. The pathogenical potential of the imbalance of the diet and the time that it takes, your time, to make it.
I want to thank the FCI board members for giving Mexico the opportunity of having this important World Congress for Welfare and Health for the dogs worldwide. We are really pleased, and thank you so much for giving us this great opportunity. And also I want to thank all the speakers from all over the world who participate in this great event. Thank you.